Hey, what's up? It's Bill the Universe, and I'm going to do the birth chart reading of Michael Jackson, the great, iconic, the late, the great Michael Jackson. I think it's so interesting that I'm doing his chart right now. First of all, this is Vedic astrology. Vedic astrology is an old, ancient, 4,000-year-old Vedic Indian astrological system. That was a lot of adjectives, but that is what it is. That's what Vedic astrology is. It's different from normal Western astrology, but have an open mind. Hear me out. Of course, we are going to talk about the signs and stuff like that, but we also are going to talk about like specifically the stars. So, which I love, and it's a very ancient astrological system. So it ties in with Hinduism as well. So we're going to talk about deities. We're going to talk about, we're going to say a lot of terms in Sanskrit. So we're just going to kind of get, kind of cool with that. Okay, so this is Michael Jackson's chart. It's really cool that I'm doing his chart right now. First of all, I've been Bill of the Universe for 5 years. What I've done, like I think like 79 birth chart readings, and I've not done Michael Jackson. You know why? Because Vanessa Williams says it best. Sometimes I say the best for last. You know what I'm talking about? So this week I'm just like, let me do the goats of music. Let me just do the motherfucking goats. So this week I'm doing Michael Jackson and I'm doing Madonna, both of their charts. And it's so cool that Ketu, which is the south node of the moon, is currently transiting into the star of Magha Nakshatra. Magha Nakshatra is the star of Regulus. That's a star in the heart of the lion of Leo. So the south node stays in a sign every year and a half. And so it's currently going into Leo right now. And this is exactly where his sun is. Now, if you're used to thinking that he's a Virgo sun, sorry to disappoint you. This is what Vedic astrology is. It's a 23-degree difference because it actually is based off of where the stars and planets are currently and accurately. Western and tropical, normal American astrology doesn't do that. Actually, they're off like 23 degrees. This is an ancient Indian thing that keeps up with the precession of the equinoxes, so that the signs and the planets and everything that we look at in the sky and when we look at astrology, it's current and accurate. So that's why it's one of the reasons why I love this astrology. So hear me out. But yeah, South Node has gone into Leo. This is and Ketu is something associated first of all with the past, and we're talking about someone who has been iconic for the last 50 years, 60 years in history, and someone who's passed away. So I think that's interesting that as soon as Ketu hits this very, very spiritual, very, very old, very, very regal star of Regulus, which the Hindus call Magha Nakshatra. Now we're doing Michael Jackson's chart. It's almost like kind of saying like, honestly, like I'm just gonna say it. It's almost kind of like saying we're finally getting his blessing. We're finally getting his okay. Like it's almost like he's finally with us. Like it's like he wants to be with us when we're gonna do it. It's like he wants to make sure we're gonna do this right. He wants to make sure we're gonna say good things. He wants to make sure everything is gonna be okay. So I get it. I get it. And the fact that Ketu moves a sign every year and a half, that means it takes forever for it to hit Leo. you know, that means and especially the star Magha Nakshatra. This is where Ketu is right now. And it's also the sun nakshatra for Michael Jackson. He was born a Leo August 29th. 1958. He was born like 3 months. Him and Madonna were born 3 months away from my mother. They were both born in August 1958, and my mom was born in November 1958. So I always kind of considered them the holy trinity of my personal life, like Madonna, Michael, Mama. But anyway, I mean, this star is, like I said, the heart of the lion. This is the king, which is so funny because Michael Jackson is the king, isn't he? Michael Jackson is the king of pop. You know, it's interesting because they also call Elvis Presley the king. I did his chart too. I can't remember his placements. I know he's a Scorpio ascendant, and that's actually quiet power, and it's very, very powerful being Mars, but I can't remember anything else about his chart. But Michael Jackson has his sun in Makha Nakshatra, which is the heart of the lion. So when you see him, when you see images of him, it's almost like he has an energy of regalness, right? It's almost like you can see that. It's like you can see an invisible crown when you're looking at pictures of Michael Jackson. And so that's the cool thing about this star. This star, from what I've noticed, is actually a bit of a Prince star. Leo is not about. Leo is royal. Leo is regality. But you know what? Leo is born regality. So it doesn't necessarily mean they had to do something to earn their spot. They kind of just energetically are this. This is why even if you're not famous, you're still gonna have that boss energy. Like you walk into a room and people are either gonna get quiet or people are gonna get they're gonna notice you. You know, this star, it's so funny. I'm watching this 4 hour documentary on this particular star, Makha Nakshatra. This again, the star in Leo. And it's like 4 Indian Vedic astrologers having a Zoom talk about Makha Nakshatra, but it's just so fascinating. And they're talking about the fact that people talk shit about them. People talk about them. I mean, this is what you do with kings. Kings are loved and hated. Kings they're talked about. That when they walk into a room, everyone pays respect to them, even if they don't like them. Honestly, that makes sense. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a Makha Nakshatra as well. I'm August 27. You know, Michael Jackson's August 29th, and I kind of get that too. Like even yesterday, I was at the office and I walked into the office and there's 2 other dudes there, and all of a sudden it just got so quiet, and everyone were like focused on what I was doing, and so it's almost like you just walk into a room, and not to say that I'm a fucking king, all right, but which is probably why he has such a Saturn heavy chart. He has a really, really Saturn heavy Saturn. A heavy Saturn in your chart is a lot of karma, and you have to work. Like you will not get it based off blessings. Don't you know? You will not. When the more Saturn you are, the earlier you have to grow up. When the more Saturn you are, the more hard your life is as a child, and the more maturity you gain at a younger age. When you're like so fucking Saturn, you can be like basically a grown up by the time you're hitting puberty. So which that would balance his heavy regality. Like I said, Prince William, his father is the king, King Charles. King Charles did not earn. He didn't do anything. He was just born. He was born into the right family. He was born into the right bloodline. You know, that's what it is. That's what regality is. You're born into it. That's why Leo is actually a prince and it's a princess. Makha Nakshatra is the prince, in my opinion, and then Purva Falguni Nakshatra is the princess. And that's like the butt of the line. They're very sexy. They're very sensual. You know who is a Purva Falguni Nakshatra? Beyonce. And we call her a queen, right? Queen Bee, right? So it's no like coincidence. It's what's in the stars. That Leo is. This is also why a lot of people don't like Leo, because a lot of people are like they're pompous, or they're full of themselves, or they're arrogant, or they're know-it-alls, and you know what, honestly, a lot of times it can be true, but that's more the egotistical side. It's because there truly is an innate regality. Innate meaning that something you were born with, right? So, you know, Beyonce's a Purva Falguni sun. She's a Leo sun. She was born the 4th of September. This is Vedic astrology, okay? Remember, all right? In my astrology, Beyonce is not a Virgo. She's a Leo. Leo women are very penetrative. Leo women are very sexual. You want to F a Leo when you look at them, especially with Beyonce. She's got her Mars in the 10th house, but we're not talking about Beyonce. I'm sorry. This chart is badass. This chart is so powerful, and it's very, 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 very fierce. It's interesting because we think of Joe Jackson as like a bully, as mean, as fierce, as all these like Tamasic things. Tamasic meaning negative. Tamasic meaning like fighting, conflict, friction, that realm. That's tamasic energy. That's tamas energy. Okay, so we usually think of his father that way, but actually, you know what? I mean, sorry to say, but every child is half their mother, half their father, and he has very severe placements. He has very like fierce placements. This all also would help him be a just perfect for the business, like just a killer in business. I make bullet points when I see like reoccurring suggestions or of a personality facet, And for him, I put power because I see a lot of powerful placements. I've never made a list so long full of fierce, powerful placements as Michael Jackson's chart. Like, and it's just so fucking crazy that the South Node that changes signs every year and a half is just now coming into the sign of Leo. Not just that, but he's also coming into the star of Magha Nakshatra, which is exactly where Michael Jackson's sun is. So it's almost like I'm doing this isn't almost just like good timing. It's more like perfect timing. It's almost kind of even divine timing. So I'm really, really happy that I'm doing his chart like right now. Usually you want to do it where the moon is in a good place when you put out something. But the fact that the fucking South Node is coming in, is being conjunct his moon, I think that's really, really cool. It's like, where do I even start? I have 2 pages of his notes. Like, this is gonna be a long video. I'm sorry. I still kind of feel like I'm in the introduction part. Like, this is probably gonna be like an hour video, something like that. That's crazy because I have shit to do today. But yeah, not only is this a very, very regal nakshatra, but he has Pluto conjunct his sun. I don't really even, and in Pluto, we don't talk about in Vedic astrology. We don't talk about Pluto because we go all the way up to Saturn. But I have to mention it because Pluto is a very, 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 very powerful planet. It's a very, very deeply powerful. From what I'm Scorpio rules Pluto. It's crazy. I'm talking about like normal astrology, but yeah, I mean, I had to see because I mean, when you talk about Michael Jackson, that's like the most celebrity you can even think of. So it's like there has to be something very, very deep in his chart, and this is it. This is it. Pluto conjunct the sun in the sign of Magha, in the nakshatra of Magha. I think it's just very, very powerful. And it's an Ukra Nakshatra. Ukra Nakshatra is things who can. Okay, now I'm just telling you what I see in the chart, okay? Now, this is, like I said, this is a lot of fierceness. This is really good for the boardroom. What did I put? I put power, ruthless businessman. Yeah, that's what I put. These are all the places that I see to make someone a very powerful, ruthless businessman. Okay. Ukra Nakshatra. These people, yeah, this is a healthier way of exercising your very fierce qualities. People who are Ukra Nakshatras, they have to channel it in a healthier way. So, like, I know people who are Ukra Nakshatras, the healthy way they exercise their very fierce qualities is they are into sports. They are athletes. They are football for sure. Like, most of them are football because it's just the most violent. So the fact that he was always a traveler, that he was a very fierce businessman, that he was doing a lot of adult things at a very young age, that actually is a very good way of like exercising his Ugra Nakshatra. Because when you're just sitting there, you don't have a job, you are have a lot of time on your hands, you're bored. That's where it's the Ugra Nakshatra where it gets kind of messy, because then they have too much time on their hands, they're not exercising, they're not channeling that energy in a constructive manner. But when you're 10 years old and you're Michael Jackson and you have you got to do the Sonny and Cher show at 8 in the morning in California, and then you got rehearsal, and then you're into the studio the next day, it's like that's a good way of exercising, that high demand type of lifestyle. So it's like you needed a chart to compensate for all the demands he had as a kid, throughout his life. Because this is a very, 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 very just powerful chart. It's very, very cutting edge. Ruthless. It can be ruthless. He has his Ketu conjunct his Mars in the third house. That's fucking fascinating. First of all, not gonna lie, ladies, not to say anything disparaging about Michael Jackson, but I'm gonna tell you something. This, not to say anything crass about him, this is a very well endowed placement. I mean, it makes sense. Michael Jackson's a handsome guy. I remember. I mean, I don't remember, but I've seen pictures of him in the off the wall days in the late 70s, early 80s when he was a young man. Very handsome young black man, and there's pictures of him shirtless, like by the pool and stuff like that. I'm just like, damn, he's a good looking guy, man. And he has Ketu conjunct Mars. First of all, that makes you a motherfucking killer in the boardroom. I'm just telling you, like, this is a killer. Which I will say, like, again, this chart is very good for like exercising your very fierce energy, because Mars conjunct Ketu. Now, before I get into this, the reason why I'm telling you about how good he looks is because this is a well endowment placement. Basically, I'm saying what I'm the bullet point I'm dancing around is that this is a big penis placement. This is a placement with a big penis, a long one. But it is. And it's in the. You know what? Michael Jackson has he actually has a bit of a sexual chart. He has a very amorous chart too. That's very fascinating. I keep that. Let me get back to that. Ketu in the third, Mars and Ketu in the third house. That can make him very restless. That can make him, it's like he's a warrior and he has to go off and go to war. And he has to, or he's like a lone wolf and he has to go. You know what I honestly have to say? It's almost like even saying he's like a lone predator and he has to go out and like, do his thing, like attack or whatever. The reason why I say that is because Ted Bundy had this placement. All right, Ted Bundy was the man who killed all those women. And who else had this placement? Chris Kyle. Have you ever seen American Sniper? American Sniper is that movie starring Bradley Cooper about the actual man, Chris Kyle, who was a military sniper. He was a Navy SEAL and he was a sniper, and he had 166 confirmed killed. He has the most confirmed kills, sniper kills, in U.S. history. This man also had Mars conjunct Ketu. So again, with the ruthlessness, he didn't go out killing people. So, that's not what I'm saying. Again, this is where the constructive channeling of that energy is, because he was a ruthless businessman. We all know that story of him basically buying out the complete Beatles catalog right in front of Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson were friends. They were friends. And Paul McCartney suggested that he get into publishing because it's a lot of money. I don't know why Michael Jackson didn't just already know that. I'm pretty sure he already knew that, but I don't know. Maybe he found out. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe Paul said something and then Michael kind of looked into it, and then he found out that the publishing rights, that the Beatles owned, where the contract was up, so it was for sale again. And so he probably took a higher bid, and then he actually wound up buying, purchasing, and owning, and acquiring the entire Beatles catalog. And currently, his mother has is the beneficiary for that estate, but that's besides the point. He did that. And when Paul confronted him, apparently Michael Jackson was like, hey, that's just business. So this is, again, sniper, right? Sniper. Chris Kyle was a motherfucking sniper. You know, Ted Bundy would be someone who did not channel that energy constructively. You know what I mean? Michael Jackson did it in the boardroom, and it's in the third house of competition. You want malefic things. You want tamas energy, okay? And Mars and Ketu are two of the four tamasic energies in Jyotisha. So you have half of all your tamasic ammo in the third house of competition. This is good. And I'm sorry, but to say Mars conjunct Ketu, especially, it doesn't even matter if it wasn't in the third house. It could be anywhere. Even if Mars was like debilitated, he still would have been a killer for sure. Like, this guy was a killer in the motherfucking boardroom. And it's actually very, very interesting. The fact that it's in the first pada of Ashvini, the first pada of Ashvini is Aries, that's like literally the first 3 degrees of the entire zodiac. So this is where his Ketu is. It's kind of like suggesting, first of all, that he's very spiritual. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's seen ghosts or visions. That's first of all, like, very good spiritual knowledge. But also, like, when it comes to, I'm just going to say, when it comes to like business, it's like no feelings. Not one. Not a single one. Ketu conjunct Mars anyway can make you no feelings type of person. But then in the third house, in Aries, Aries is the most selfish sign. And then it's in Ashvini, the star of Ashvini, which is like the first 3 degrees of the entire fucking zodiac. That's so infantile. Now, while you might think that's bad, infantile is very pure. This is why I say they're very spiritual, because they have a lot of spiritual knowledge. Yeah, it's almost like in the boardroom he's psychopathic. You know, which is good for business. This, like I said, powerful, man, powerful. And like I said, his sun is in Makha Nakshatra, which is that star in Leo. That's not the point. What I was saying was Makha is Ugra Nakshatra. That's what I'm saying. Okay. His moon is in Purva Bhadrapada. And his ascendant is in Shadabhishak. Okay, so his moon and his ascendant are both in Aquarius. Moon in the ascendant. Moon in the ascendant was one of the placements to be a child star. When you have heavy Mercury or heavy moon, you can be a child star. This is not so heavy on the Mercury and Moon, even though he was a child star. There are, of course, things indicating that he was a child star, yes, but usually with child actors, you see like tremendous Moon or Mercury, but you don't see a tremendous amount. More than what you see, a tremendous amount is just powerful energy. So if you're really old and you remember, if you're really old, I'm sorry, but if you're old and you remember when Michael was a kid, I have a question. Was he powerful then? Like, because maybe he was just a normal, I thought they were just like a normal kid group. Of course they were popular, but I didn't know they're like powerful. Or did we already kind of sense a power in him as a child? You know what I mean? Because that's more what this chart talks about. This chart does talk about child star, but it's kind of not even, it's like that's not even the focal point, you know? So I think that's interesting. Moon in the first house is one of those placements to make you a child star because again, it's heavy on the moon. Now, the other bad thing about heavy with being so moon heavy is the fact that you can have drinking issues. When you have a moon nakshatra or a moon heavy moon placement or heavy fourth house placement, something like that, you can be subject to moon issues. You know, one moon issue is that you have crazy ups and downs because moon is never steady. It's always waxing and waning. Moon is bipolar. It is statistically found that women are more women will get bipolarism than men. And what I found is that a lot of the men who do get bipolar will be a moon nakshatra or heavy moon. And he is heavy moon because he has his moon in the first house. When you have moon in the first house, you might as well be a Cancer sun. Or you might as well have you might as well, I mean, because you just are the moon. You know, whatever's in your first house is like you're an embodiment of it. And he's got his moon in the first house. Now that's interesting because moon in the first house people, they usually will fluctuate in weight. That's usually the women though, but usually when the men, they are usually taller, again, very handsome. Moon endows, right? Moon gives abundance and girth to whatever because this is the mother. Moon is mother, so moon blesses with her milk, right? So again, me saying that Ketu conjunct Mars was kind of a big penis placement. The fact that he's got his moon in the first house also just gives, and first house is the body, right? So moon kind of just gives him that fertility that he was always a thin guy, which is interesting because even though moon is here, Saturn is the ruler because this is Aquarius, and Saturn kind of sucks up the dry, kind of makes you a bit dry, and it can make you tall and lean. So I think that's interesting. But the other thing about moon in the first house is, like I said, is they got to watch out for the drinking. The drinking is real for these people. The drinking is real. It's because of their mood swings, you know. Not only that, but he's also a moon person because he has his sun is in Magha Nakshatra, but it's also in the fourth Navamsa of Cancer. So on the upside, it makes these men good parents. These men are good. These men can be like mother figures, actually. Like they're very maternal. They're very giving. They're very kind. They're very blessing. You know, everything a mother is. You know, a good mother is nurturing and forgiving and warm and loving and kind and whatever. That's what a good mother does. And I noticed that these men are caregivers. They're good parents. I think that's fascinating. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I see a lot of these men who have fourth Navamsa of Makha Nakshatra. I find a lot of them, if they're not single parents, they'll do it like the most work anyway. Like even if they're married, they'll still like carry the brunt of the emotional energy. They'll still be the glue in their family. They'll still, almost kind of parent alone, while the other parent is not as like devoted. But I guess that's just a mom. You know what I mean? So that's more moon for him. The other point, the other thing that made him a child star is, like I said, lots of moon, lots of Mercury. That will make you a child star. He has his 10th house ruled. No, he has a planet in his 10th house ruled by Mercury. His 10th house is career. 10th house is the public stage. 10th house is how people see you. 10th house is actually what people see first. People think it's your first house because it's that's your body, or it's your sun because it's how you shine. But it's actually the 10th house because 10th house is the public stage. 10th house is the most visible. 10th house is where the sun is like directly above you, like at noon. That's the 10th house. So like even light, and he has his Saturn in the the 10th house in Jyeshtha Nakshatra. Jyeshtha Nakshatra is a Mercury ruled nakshatra in Scorpio. So that's what I'm saying. You see what I'm saying? Like, first of all, the planet is Saturn, and then it's in Scorpio. That's not for kids. That's very deep. That's very powerful. Saturn is very powerful. Saturn is the authority figure. Saturn is the controller of the masses. Saturn is you cannot defeat Saturn because he earned it. Like, that's why Saturn's so powerful. Saturn doesn't need fate. He earned it. So that's a lot. It's a heavy energy for a child, and it's in the sign of Scorpio. I don't need to talk to you about Scorpio. You already know how powerful Scorpio is. But it's still Mercury because it's in the nakshatra. It's in the star in Scorpio, ruled by Mercury. Now, when people have this placement, then that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be child stars, but they can work with children. They could be good teachers. Actually, this sign, Jyeshtha Nakshatra, is interesting because it's actually a protector of children. Mythically, this star is a good teacher. They're good with children. They have patience. They understand children. They just have that, again, with the maternal with the maternal knowledge, you know. Now that I'm kind of speaking this out loud, I'm not seeing just how ruthless businessman chart, but I'm actually kind of seeing how weirdly maternal this chart is. Yeah, they make good teachers. And you know what? I wonder if he was ever a piano player. I know he was a dancer. You know, third house is also dancing. You know who has an activated third house? What's his name? Chris Brown. And he is a dancer, and I think he's like super like influenced by Michael Jackson. That's so interesting. But anyway, yeah, like I said, 10th house, that could have made him a child star because he had a Mercury in his 10th house. But it's still a very powerful energy because it's Saturn, which is the authority figure, and it's Scorpio, which is very, very deep power, very quiet power. But it's still in a Mercury nakshatra, meaning children. So I think that's interesting. Okay, moving on. Let's go to I want to talk about the sexual amorous parts, okay? Now, we don't talk about this a lot in his chart, in his life, because we don't really know a lot about that, which is interesting. You know, we didn't really see a lot of his relationships and stuff like that. And it's weird because he has almost no 12th house things, which I think is very fascinating because he was a private dude. He has very, very strong sexual amorous placements on his Kendras. Kendras are the pillars of your life. And I've never seen stronger Kendra houses. He's got Saturn, Sun, Moon. Those are all really strong planets to have in your Kendra houses. And it's mixed with Mercury, which is multiple. So it's like he has multiple, like, empires. You know, it's not just he has one empire. He has multiple empires. I mean, just the Kendra houses are so strong. You know, this is a very, 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 even if this chart belongs to, even if they're poor, like, they'll never be actually poor, or they'll always be a foundation for their family, something like that. And they're all in fixed signs. That's the other thing. You know, fixed signs, they're stubborn. They don't like to move. So it's like this chart is a real bedrock foundation for their family. Like, and everyone around them, just the energy you get is just like, boom. It's very, 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 very strong. You can't defeat it. Like, you can't defeat this chart. And it's funny because this chart could do so well in battle. This chart could do so well. This chart is such a good basketball player. This chart is a really good athlete. That's what I'm saying. Like, I wrote down sports star because this chart could be a champ. This is a champion chart. You know, this is a musical chart because his sun is in Leo. Um and he has his Jupiter aspecting his fifth house. But this is more of a like a competitor chart. This is like the Michael Jordan's chart, Charles Barkley. This is LeBron James' chart. This is, you know, I was doing someone's chart. I looked at LaMelo Ball's chart. He had a classic athlete's chart. I mean, strong activated third house, especially, is going to make you really good at sports. And he has the strongest activated third house I've ever fucking seen. Plus, he's got Sarita Rashis ruling over his Kendras. Such stability. But the point is, I was going about the amorous, the sexual, and amorous placements. Okay, so his fourth house cusp is in. First of all, his ascendant cusp is in Shatabishak. That's in Aquarius. Shatabishak is ruled by Rahu. That's very sensual. They love money. They love sex. So that's interesting because we don't know about his sexual life. Then his fourth house is in Mrigashira. That's a star in Taurus. So Taurus, you already know, is very sensual, very sexual, very artistic. Okay, so it's also very amorous. It's not just the sexual side of romance, because that's Scorpio. This is opposite Taurus, so this is the very sensual side of romance. Okay, again, making him amorous. Then his seventh house cup, which is the actual house of relationships, is in Purva Falguni. This is that same star I told you Beyonce is on. This star, Purva Falguni, is the most sensual star in all of astrology. It's the most sexual star in all of astrology. Purva Falguni, this is the star on the butt of the lion. Okay, so this is Leo. This is where the cusp of his seventh house is. That's what I was talking about. This is a very actually amorous chart. This is a very sexual chart. This star, this is where Beyonce's sun is, and this is where Madonna's moon is. And if you're old like me, you remember how freaky Madonna was. Apparently, she's still freaky. Like, she's Madonna till the day she dies. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, Purva Falguni is like, it's just, they are meant for sex. They're meant for love. They're meant for leisure. They're meant for lounging. So, plus he's a Leo sun himself. Leos are freaks. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, this dude. But I guess I will admit, Leos, and I'll say this as a Leo, I have four planets in Leo in my 10th house. So you know, but Leos, they're very highly sexual, but I noticed that they're also very private about it. Like the people who they do share their sexual life with, they're very performative. You know what I mean? They're very flamboyant with their sexuality. But other than that, if you're not in their sexual world, like, you're actually very pious, which makes sense because Leo is also the prince. Leo is royalty. And we don't get to know about the sex life of royalty, you know, except for Prince Andrew. Okay. Epstein files. Anyway. Is Michael Jackson in the Epstein files? I don't think he is. Or is he? I don't know. You tell me. But yeah, his seventh house is in Purva Falguni. I mean, it just doesn't get any more amorous. And that's the best star for sex. That's the best star for relationships. That's why I'm so confused. I'm just like, he never was so open about his sexuality, who he was dating and stuff like that. But I will say it kind of also makes sense because his Venus is a little bit what's it called? Debilitated because it's in the 6th house. And it's in the star of Aslesha. Now, men who have their Venus in Aslesha, that can be a little bit of a problem. Not even gonna lie. Why? Because it can attract women who are controlling. You know, it can attract women who are fucking beautiful, baddies. You know, who's that chick? That he did a music video with, and she's this very beautiful, very small framed black girl. and I think she was a dancer, and they did like a music video together, and there was a lot of like speculation that they were together. This is like in the 80s. Do y'all know who I'm talking about? If you know who I'm talking about, tell me. She was, I think she was a dancer. And it's so funny because this star, Aslesha, is known for being very hypnotic dancers. And Tyla has her moon in Aslesha. And apparently she's a very good dancer. She does a lot of sensual and hypnotic dancing. Madonna has her son in this star of Aslesha, and she was always known for doing crazy dances, always known for dancing. Madonna was a ballerina, actually, which is interesting because Michael Jackson is this. Wow, I've never seen when I see Aslesha being perceived like in a feminine way. The women will become dancers. I rarely see the men becoming dancers, exercising Aslesha in this way. But I guess, yeah, Michael Jackson did it too. That's very interesting. So this would suggest that his mom really, really, really pushed him into the dancing. Why do I say the mother? Because Aslesha is a star in Cancer. Cancer is the mother. Okay? So that's why I'm saying also why these women that he might attract romantically will be very, very controlling, because what do mothers do with their with their kids? They control them. Go do this, go do that. They're constricting. Mothers are constricting. Now, mothers, this is normally it's not being shown like this, but mothers can be that way. So this star of Aslesha actually is known as the snake because of how constricting they are. It's actually interesting because Aslesha has themes of being frozen because of the constricting phase. And there's Aslesha men who have these constricting bits of their parts of their life. So for example, Thor, what's his name? Tom something? I don't know. Who's that really hot blonde guy that plays Thor? He's an Aslesha's son. And he found out that he has a geriatric illness that will one day like constrict his body where he won't move. I think he said ALS or Asperger. I forget what, not Alzheimer's. What's his name? Christopher Reeve, the original Superman, was an Aslesha ascendant. And he was in a terrible accident in the 90s that left his body completely paralyzed, which is constriction. And he was an Aslesha ascendant. Aslesha has a weird thing about it where the men can be debilitated literally in that way. And this was made known by the astrologer Claire Nocte. So the fact that he has his Venus in Aslesha, and it's in the 6th house. This is the other curious thing. It's also in the 6th house. 6th house of diseases and enemies. And it's interesting because the 6th house is the hospital. And he died what was it? He died. They were injecting something into him. It was like a morphine or something like that, or some type of anesthetic. And he said something's wrong. And then he died. And it constricted him. He couldn't move his body. That's what's very, very fascinating to me, is that he has this energy, Aslesha. Aslesha mythically is associated with the coiled snake, which is the constriction. And so he has this energy in his 6th house, which is not a good house. It's a house of suffering. The 6th, the 8th, and the 12th are houses of suffering. Okay, and this is why also Venus is there. This is why also this kind of answers why he's always had failed relationships, or his love just never really blossomed like that, because it's in the 6th house of Virgo. Venus cannot be in the 6th house of Virgo. It cannot. It's the worst. It hates it there. Venus needs to relax and to be loved on. and needs to be juicy and needs to drink plenty of liquids. And Venus needs to fuck and be fucked. But Venus in the sixth house, Venus has to go to work here. Venus has to get up at 4 in the morning and go take the bus to the hospital where they're a nurse and they get thrown up on. Like, this is not where Venus wants to be, you know. Now, on one hand, this can make him, a good heart, or loving money, this loving finance, loving security, you know, being born into a hard place and really wanting to rise above it. And we do see that in his chart, in his personal life. But Venus is debilitated here because it just has to go to work. It doesn't want to do it. This is Virgo. It needs to be in the 12th house of Pisces, where it's done with all that bullshit. It's getting fucked under a waterfall in Fiji. That's where Venus needs to be, but it's not. Venus is constricted again. So it may feel like he might have felt like the loves of his life, the things that really give him joy, like he never really got to enjoy it. Like, it was constricted. Wow, I went off into a tangent with that. But that kind of gives you a kind of, and the other thing that kind of confirms that is he's so Saturn. Saturn is so karmic. So I kind of think it's very interesting how he has a very sexual, sensual, amorous chart, yet he has a bad Venus. Something's constricting him. Something's keeping him from having those experiences. And then it's double sealed with the fact that he's so fucking Saturn. He's got Saturn in the 10th house. He's got Saturn in Scorpio. He's got his Mars. He's got his moon and ascendant in Aquarius, which is ruled by Saturn. Like, he's got Saturn ruling over his moon. He's got Saturn ruling over his body because it's in the ascendant. He's got Saturn ruling over his career because it's in the 10th house. Like, he's had to work, and he's been denied love and sensual relationships and sexual relationships. Yeah, this chart is a little bit sad because it's someone who really wants to experience life but can't. Someone who really now it is someone who is very powerful, and someone, when they do lean into their power, they're motherfucking killing it. It's like someone who like owns a Fortune 500 company, and they were raised either with like crazy parents or really strict parents, some situation where the privilege wasn't there, like the being a rich kid or being a favorite, and Michael was one of 6, 7 kids. You don't get privacy. You get hand-me-downs. Like, when you grow up in a family like that, you don't get, your own birthday. You don't get, stuff like that. So this person was very much denied a lot of what we take for granted. It's so funny because you hear that in the news. You're like, well, Michael Jackson didn't have a normal childhood, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, okay, well, there's a lot of people that didn't have a normal childhood. There's a lot of people that didn't have good childhoods. But this chart truly not only takes away from like the harmony and peace, the fun parts of life, but then it over accentuates the duties of life. Like, this person was born like in the line of duty. This person was born needing to go to work. This person was born, with responsibility. This person was born having to grow up. This person was born, you know what I mean? On the up hand, all that Saturn makes you really wise and mature at a young age. So that's a good thing. But they spend forever. A lot of times, who has Saturn in the first house? Britney Spears. How the fuck is Britney Spears doing in life right now? You know what I'm saying? So considering he has so much Saturn, like, he did okay. Who else is heavy Saturn? Judy Garland. Judy Garland was heavy. She also had Saturn in her first house. Yeah, Saturn would be. You know who else is heavy Saturn is Oprah Winfrey and Bill Gates and the guy who created Apple computers, Steve Jobs. So on one hand, all that Saturn makes you the boss. It makes you just the fucking king. It makes you the authority figure. But on the downside, it takes away a lot of things. Okay. Um there's a lot here. There's a lot more than I thought. Okay, I guess I'll do aspects real quick. I guess I'll do yogas. Okay, he has a masala yoga. Masala yoga, that's when the planets are in fixed signs. This makes them proud, learned, wealthy, liked by the ruler, famous, stable nature, blessed with several sons. And he did have two sons. And his oldest was a son. So in usually in anthropology, that's a good thing. So this did play out. He was all those things. He was proud, learned, wealthy. He was liked by the ruler. He was famous. He had a stable nature. And this chart definitely talks about stable nature. I mean, he's got powerful planets, including his royal planets, Sun and Moon, in Kendra, plus his Saturn in Kendra houses, and they're in fixed signs. And to confirm it, he's got a Masala Yoga, which is all fixed planets. I mean, all fixed signs. I'm sorry. So then Shritta, so all his planets in Shritta. Okay. So the upside for having a lot of fixed signs planets is that he stays in one place, which is true. We all know about his famous Neverland Ranch, and it was very much just one spot. Usually, celebrities have all types of homes everywhere. No one really knows where they live. It's very vague where celebrities live, but we know where he lived. He very much had his abode. He very much had a certain area in the world that we associate with Michael Jackson. And stays in one place, acquires property, which he definitely did. And then it says this downside is stubbornness, difficulty adjusting to change, inability to make quick decisions. You know, that's true, because when we have a lot of fixed signs, it's kind of stubborn. I'm looking at all the Rashi, all the yogas. Shritta Rashi. Okay, stable wealth, lasting friendships, resolute, disciplined, forgiving, slow but steady in performance. That's very interesting. It's funny because he was a child star, but there's so much stuff in his chart indicating that he had to really, really work for it. So that tells me that by the time he was coming out with Thriller, I mean, that makes so much sense. Thriller was the most successful album in the world. I think it is the most successful album in the world. And that wasn't his third album. That was after 5, 6, 7 Jackson 5 albums. And then he did Off the Wall. And then he did Thriller. Like, that is very Saturn. That is very Saturn. Because if it's Venus or Moon, that means you just come out with an album and you just by luck or by divine luck, you're it. But this album is years in the making. So I think that's very interesting when they say slow but steady performance. Again, this is what happens when your moon is in a Shritta Rashi, meaning a fixed sign. Stable wealth, lasting friendship, resolute, disciplined, forgiving, slow but steady in performance. Okay, then he has a Dhamma Yoga. That's a Sankhya Yoga. Okay, and the other reason I like this is because you actually want you actually want planets spread out through your house system. You don't want too many planets in one house. Like me, I have 4 planets in one house. Isn't that crazy? But he has all his planets in 6 different houses. This makes them wealthy, liberal, renowned, learned, contented. Very nice. Okay, guys. Well, I think that's enough. Again, thank you for letting me do this, and hit me up for a chart reading. My email is billoftheuniverse@gmail.com. And yes, all right, bye.